The Indian subcontinent was ruled by the British under the British Raj, which lasted from 1858 to 1947. After the Indian Rebellion of 1857, which began in 1858 as the rule of the East India Enterprise, English and eventually British Joint Stock Enterprise, was nationalized, the British government assumed control and formed the British Raj. When a private property is nationalized, the government assumes ownership or management of it. The Mughal Empire, an early modern empire that ruled over India for 2 centuries, existed prior to the British Raj. The Mughal dynasty, which ruled India from 1526 until 1671, had a profound effect on Indian history and culture. The collapse of the Mughal Empire was caused by several events. The Mughal rulers imposed laws that were especially harsh toward religion, and because these laws weakened their authority and split the realm, they caused resentment. Economic challenges accompanied these government cutbacks. By the middle of the 1800s, the empire had lost much of its territory to the British and its competitors due to rivalry and warfare. During their extraordinarily successful reign, which lasted from around 1526 to 1858 CE, the term Mughal, which now denotes strong individuals or industry leaders, was born. Europeans were first just engaged in trading with the Mughal Empire. But this curiosity played a major role in the empire's downfall. Around the edge of the Indian subcontinent, Europeans started building factories and forts. The Portuguese reached Kerala in 1498, the Dutch ruled the Coromandel coast, and the British got engaged in 1600. The British East India Company was established in 1600 with the sole purpose of engaging in trade throughout the Indian Ocean area, much like previous Europeans had done before them. But when the empire collapsed, the British used their victory against the French at the Battle of Plassey in 1757 to gain leverage on the Mughal emperors. The Nawab was the ruler of Bengal. The army of Siraj-ud-Daulah, the Nawab of Bengal, and his French allies fought this battle, but they lost because the Nawab's cannon powder was ruined by heavy rain. The East India Company quickly gained dominance over a large portion of the Indian subcontinent. In India, this era was often referred to as the Company rule. The East India Company's interests in Indian resources expanded beyond the trading of cotton, silk, tea, and opium following their defeat at the Battle of Plassey. They also started to assume military authority over portions of India. Due to company regulations and taxes, Bengalis were rendered extremely poor, and by 1773, a third of the population, roughly 10 million people, had perished in hunger in Bengal. Up until the British ultimately banished the last Mughal emperor during the Indian Rebellion of 1857, Mughal rulers remained on their thrones but possessed little actual power. The British East India Company was dissolved as a result of the Indian Rebellion of 1857, also known as the Indian Mutiny, an abortive rebellion against the company that took place in India. As a result, the British Raj was established, and the British government took control. The rebellion, often referred to as the Sepoy Mutiny, the Indian Resurrection, the Great Rebellion, or the First War of Independence, claimed the lives of several hundred British subjects in addition to at least a few thousand Indian mercenaries known as sepoys. On August 2, 1858, the Government of India Act was approved by the British Parliament, giving the Crown authority over India instead of the Company. The term rule in Hindi, which was used to refer to British control in India, was the British Raj, or just the Raj. Portions of what was formerly the British Indian Empire were ruled over. These portions are now the Republic of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Myanmar. Only over 2/3 of contemporary India was under British rule. The other percentage was ruled by regional kings. Over 560 great and minor princes remained to control these regions independently. Several of their leaders had even engaged in combat with the British during the Mutiny before signing treaties with the Raj. These regions were governed by their own traditional rulers, even though the British Crown maintained overall sovereignty over them. During the British Raj, the most influential British politicians were appointed Secretary of State for India, but British viceroys, governors, still had real authority over Indian politics. Historians contend that the British were able to exploit the divisions in Indian society to maintain their dominance over the country. India was a major supplier of products to Britain during this period, which Britain in turn supplied to other nations. Utilizing their people resources, the British also established the British Indian Army, which they employed around the world, especially during the two world wars. When Britain declared war on Germany during World War I, the British Indian Army employed around 1.5 million Indian laborers and soldiers. Mahatma Gandhi, the Indian lawyer Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, led the Indians who fought for independence even though many of them were willing to fight for the British banner. Unarmed demonstrators assembled in April 1919 in Punjab's Amritsar, one of the regions the British were still finding it difficult to govern. April 13, 1919, saw the Baisakhi festival early in the morning. Acting Brigadier General Reginald Dyer gave the order for British forces to open fire on the unarmed demonstrators. At least 379 civilians were murdered and another 1,200 were injured in the carnage. This was dubbed the Jallianwala Bagh Massacre or the Amritsar Massacre. India contributed significantly to British efforts in World War II as well. Princely states were required to supply troops as well as money. With the majority of Indians disliking British rule, Indian nationalism became more apparent, and the Indian independence movement became stronger. Indian councillors were recruited to assist British viceroys, and Indian representatives were included in provincial councils by the late 19th century, when India began its transition towards self-government. Indians were granted positions in the legislative councils under the Government of India Act of 1909, also known as the Morley-Minto Reforms. Previously, they were appointed to these positions, however, they are now elected. An important player in the unification of Muslims and Hindus was Muhammad Ali Jinnah. In 1913, Jinnah became a member of the Muslim League. Gandhi and other supporters of the 1885 founded Indian National Congress, Inc., carried on their anti-British activism while the Second World War raged. With the intention of pressing the British, Jinnah joined the Congress. Under the direction of Pandit Motilal Nehru and Jinnah, the Muslim League and the Inc. convened jointly in December 1916 to create the Congress-Muslim League Pact, often known as the Lucknow Pact. The Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms, a set of constitutional amendments to the Government of India Act 1919, contributed to the rise of elected Indian representation in local government organizations. For Indians, these changes were insufficient, though. Political luminaries Nehru and Gandhi were further inspired to call on the people to take action by the Amritsar massacre. Despite vain attempts at mobilization, India remained split as a result of the British drawing India into World War II without first considering the Indian population. The Inca approved a resolution in July 1942 stating that they would engage in widespread civil disobedience if the British did not grant their aspirations for total independence. When the Quit India Resolution was approved in 1942, the Quit India movement, which was based on Gandhi's non-violent principles, began with non-violent protests and defiance of authority. But by 1943, the movement was over. After breaking out of house detention in Calcutta, Indian rebel Subhas Chandra Bose turned to the Axis powers for assistance in building an army to oppose British authority in India. While in exile, Bose established the Indian National Army, INA, using Indian prisoners of war and established the Azad Hind government as the Provisional Free Indian Government. Due to low supplies and weapons, bad logistics, and a lack of training assistance, the INA struggled in Assam, Bengal, and Burma and besieged Imphal and Kohima with the Japanese 15th Army. Despite their best efforts, they were ultimately defeated. Numerous historians contend that the INA served as the impetus for India's independence, proving that their efforts were not in vain. The British Indian Army saw mutinies as a result of the execution of INA troops. In the end, these uprisings influenced the fall of the Raj. British control came to an end on August 15, 1947, with the liberation of all prisoners of war by 1946. August 14, 1947. India gained freedom the next day, whereas Pakistan was awarded independence first. Pakistan was formed with the collapse of the Raj, while Bangladesh was later founded by Pakistan. Subscribe to Junior Libraries channel for more engaging content designed to inspire and educate young minds.